Oh, sorry. Welcome to Crossing Ken. I was just in La La Land, where there are lots of cartoons. Things go all around in my mind all the time because I've got 61 years worth of cartoons I can think about, and this is our countdown of my favorite cartoons of all time. Now, this starts back, I was born in 1964. So we got to, kind of predate things that I would have seen. And I mean, there's a ton of shorts out there that were made in the 40s and 50s. And let's face it, my generation learned about classical music because of Looney Tunes. Exactly. Oh, by the way, I'm Randy.
And I'm Kristen.
Welcome to the Crossing King Garage, where you're always family here at Crossing King.
Today, Scooby and I are going to kind of be hosting as Daddy tells us why the cartoons I'm about to list off are his favorite of all time.
Right? Wow.
You do almost as good as Scooby as you do a Donald.
Thank you. We don't count Mickey and Donald and Goofy among these because the predominant thing they do are shorts. We're talking about episodic television that would have occurred mostly on Saturday mornings when I was a kid, or now have found their way onto Cartoon Network, or everybody is doing an animated feature of some sort.
Also, it's why Bluey isn't on his list because technically those are kind of shorts.
Those are shorts, even though they have a kind of continuing storyline. These are those classic 20 to 25-minute long, if you add commercials, episodic television shows that we were raised with.
All right, you ready?
I think so. Are you reading them and I'm talking about them?
Yep.
Well, again, welcome to Crossing Ken, where we love everything.
All right, let's get started.
Let's get started.
Number 10, Dad has put Flintstones.
Believe it or not, there are a lot of folks who would have elevated the Flintstones much, much higher onto this list. I really even didn't see a lot of the Flintstones episodes until I was in college. They were the very first primetime cartoon. They were way ahead of the Simpsons or any of those guys, and it's just they were the idea behind it is very, very good. And it's a good cartoon, but I only got to pick 10. And the ones that I've got above this are better. Classic characters, Fred and Wilma, Barney and Betty, and then their kids, Bang Bang and Bam Bam and Pebbles. Yeah. And which went to have their own spin-off cartoon. Pebbles and Bam Bam Show. Exactly. So, I like the Flintstones, but when I start talking about my top 10, they're there, but just barely.
All right, at number 9, he has put Scooby-Doo. Only number 9.
Only number 9. And the reason that I've put it at number 9 is because of it just getting
episodic.
Well, no, the original television show, if that was all I was talking about, it would go much, much higher.
You're talking about Scooby-Doo as a franchise.
As a franchise. And that's how I look at this one anyway. Sorry, buddy, but, your newer stuff, it's bad. They've taken the formula from the 5 or 6 seasons, maybe not even that much.
I think it was only 4.
Of the original television show, and they've changed it way, 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 way too much.
Also, you have just a very deep hatred for Scrappy Doo.
I'm not a fan of when Scrappy showed up on the scene, it was over for me. And but Scooby and Shaggy, Velma, Fred, and Daphne, the original team, man, oh man, they did some great stuff. And I mean, the guest stars that they had later on the show, everybody from from Don Knotts to the Globetrotters
Batman.
to Batman.
Twice.
I mean, I think even Kiss may have shown up on a Scooby-Doo.
Kiss did a whole movie with Scooby-Doo, actually.
So, but anyway, Scooby-Doo it's in my top 10, but it's kind of like the Flintstones. Great in the original iteration, and not so much in the covers.
All right. At number 8, we have Johnny Quest. I know so little about this show.
This was a show that every boy my age knew about.
What?
It's a widowed it's a widowed father who takes his son, a Indian butler, I guess is the best way to describe this guy and his son, and they do these world adventures.
Okay.
Johnny Quest is it is an adventure show. It was Indiana Jones without the archaeology so much, but it was just such an adventure show, and it exposed my generation to cultures we had never even dreamed of. This was the first very positive Arab portrayal on television. The two characters that were Arab characters, in you just fell in love with them because they were smart, they were witty, they were a part of the team, and they flew around on the coolest Learjet ever, ever. And so, I mean, he was a uber wealthy type widowed man who was raising his son, and they were just world travelers going on constant adventure after adventure.
If you can't tell, Daddy has a real love for the Hanna-Barbera stuff.
I do. Hanna-Barbera was yeah, them. They were to episodic cartoons.
What Disney was to the 90s movies.
Maybe I was thinking more the Rankin Bass to cartoons for or
Claymation.
claymation and puppetry in the Christmas shows.
Gotcha.
So Hanna-Barbera, love you guys.
Up next, I think this is also Hanna-Barbera. At number 7, we have Wacky Racers.
Wacky Racers was incredible. Another boy type show that featured the very, very feminine and petite and I mean, nice looking cartoon lady, Penelope Pitstop, and then Dastardly and his dog Mugly. Those guys were always trying to foil all of the other wacky racers, and these guys were racing all of. It was the Amazing Race before the Amazing Race was the Amazing Race with cars that were so cool.
Is this what Penelope Pitstop originated on, or did she spin off of her own show into this?
I really don't know. I think she spun off from this.
Because she has a show called Perils of Penelope Pitstop.
Yes,
Yeah?
there is a show called that cartoon. But Mugsley the dog shows up on another cartoon as well. So there were a couple of spin-offs that came from the original Wacky Racers. Good show.
All right. From one car show to another, at number 6, we have Speed Buggy.
They raced it. They raced it. I loved Speed Buggy. He was a dune buggy that talked. What more would you want? A dune buggy that talks. And they were very much borrowed from the Scooby Doo kind of.
I think they had a crossover at one point.
More than likely, they crossed over with several characters that were popular at the time. But Speed Buggy was. They were solving mysteries, not necessarily raising the mask off the face or anything like that, but it was always centered around racing. And I never knew a dune buggy could do the things that this speed buggy does. Formula 100 racing. You're just like, okay, something is not right. This cat needs to be out in the desert somewhere racing, and he does on occasion. But the voiceover for, I'm sure it was Bugs Bunny's voice. He did all those voices. Mel Blanc did all those voices back in that time, and it's adorable, and it's racing, and it's a dune buggy, and it's everything that a boy being raised in the late 60s, early 70s would love. Speed Buggy.
All right. At number 5, we have Super Friends, which was I think it was the first cartoon that featured the Justice League.
Yes, this was before there was a DC versus Marvel kind of argument or conversation even. It was just fun. Batman and Robin, Wonder Woman was in the show. Superman was in the show. Aquaman. And they had the absolute coolest music. This is the thing that attracted me to Super Friends so much. Yes, it was superheroes.
Flash.
Yeah, every once in a while, maybe he was part of the core team. When the Wonder Twins showed up, it kind of lost some of its mojo. I wasn't a huge fan. It's kind of like when Scrappy showed up on Scooby Doo.
They were trying to make it appealing to younger kids, and it just didn't work.
Very possible, but they always, they had the Joker. They had these titular bad guys that were always, the bad guys for these Super Friends from the comics.
Batman's Rogues Gallery teaming up with Cheetah, who I think is a Wonder Woman villain, and Lex Luthor.
Yeah, who's a Superman villain. Yeah. So I mean it was great fun. And it gave you that bridge from comics into live action, well, not live action, but cartoon animation. And it was all the voices were very well done. It was just and the music was it was so incredible. You knew when they were fixing to get things rocking and rolling because the music would cue up and it would flourish and it was trumpets. Good stuff.
All right, at number 4, we go from one fanfare to another. We have Star Wars: The Clone Wars.
I Kristen, I have to thank you for introducing me to Clone Wars. I am sold completely. I want to go back and watch it again.
Chronologically.
Chronologically this time, yes, preferably. But I kind of want to watch it where it might fit in between the two films. See where it fits in that between
Context.
episode 4,
2 and 3.
2 and 3. Okay, so I kind of want to see it in that context. Watch episode 2 and then come along watch Clone Wars, maybe Rebels, and then episode 3.
3 happens before Rebels.
Okay, well, however it lies out in the timeline.
I've got a timeline print on my computer. We'll
Clone
print it out.
Wars does for Star Wars. It just provides so much backstory and so much good stuff, history, and just it fills in. I love gap fillers, and this does a very very good job.
Clone
And
Wars is what made Star Wars appealing to Disney.
I think also Star Wars or Clone Wars has brought Star Wars into this generation for a lot of in many respects. And so Clone Wars is my number
4.
4.
And at number 3, we have its most direct sequel, Star Wars: The Bad Batch.
You need to go and watch our Star Wars month for every iteration, every year we've been doing Crossing Kin.
3.
Welcome to, we welcome you into May, and May is our Star Wars month. We've had 3 seasons already of Star Wars month stuff. We're not by any stretch of the imaginations experts. I'm certainly not experts in the Star Wars universe, but I have to say, all of the animated episodes that we have seen have been very, very well done. First, maybe season or so of Clone Wars, tweak that just a bit on its
But
animation.
Bad Batch was good from start to finish.
And Bad Batch, which we're talking about now, was good start to finish because it was able to build on Clone Wars and Rebels, and we want to see that next. What's the next thing that builds off of Clone Wars and Rebels to give us another animated episodic seasons worth? I was very sad whenever Bad Batch ended with 3 seasons. It should have gone more than that. But Bad Batch is my number 3 on my list. And I love the animation's good, the storylines are good, and it you don't know the characters, but you do know the characters. There's a familiarity from the very get-go on this, especially if you've seen the other 2 Star Wars animated
Features.
shows.
All right, and now for his actual favorite of the 3, we have Star Wars Rebels.
Rebels. We've talked about Rebels recently in our Star Wars month. This show really, really did it for me. I mean, because it fills in so many gaps and it introduces to me in Star Wars the best big bad since Vader. Palpatine, well, yeah, he was puppet mastering everything, but he wasn't the big bad. Um, Thrawn is wow. He's scary, and he's a character that came from the books by Timothy Zahn, Heir to the Empire, and it is beautifully done. The character, the voice is by
Mickelson,
yeah,
not Mads, the other one.
yeah, one of the Mickelson fellas, and he does it so very very well. And it's just it's Star Wars, and it's the beginning of the rebellion, and it's so good. It is one of those. I was surprised at how very very good it was, and it is my number 2.
And at Daddy's number 1, we have the Jetsons.
This was for me what the Flintstones could have been. Um, it really is the Flintstones kind of set in, well, what's our generation right now? Because a lot of the stuff that you see on the Jetsons, George, the same guy that probably did Scooby Doo's voice and everything. But what we're seeing with AI, what we're seeing with robots now, a
They had
lot of
FaceTime
that stuff.
remote learning
Ex-
before
yeah, I
before
mean,
COVID made
all
it
of
a
this.
thing.
People want to say Star Trek gave us a lot of stuff. Well, they ain't seen the Jetsons close enough then, because a lot of those things are flying cars and just
Well, we don't quite have flying cars yet.
we don't.
We have
Well,
drones.
they are available. They're just super expensive. But the Jetsons was science fiction for kids that really didn't have to be. It was built on its relationships. It was a mom and dad raising kids in outer space with all the cool gadgets, with all of the technology, with all of the modern day advantages, but the kids weren't, silver spoon kids. They weren't spoilt rotten kids. They portrayed things that we were going through in the 60s. They didn't get preachy or anything like that with the issues of the day, but it was just so much fun entertainment. And who doesn't like Here's George Jetson. The music again, the theme song alone. And the Jetsons and the Flintstones do a crossover movie together later on. For me, the Jetsons has just a very special place in my heart because the space race was going on. There's just the cool stuff. The Jetsons were something we could watch when mom and dad wouldn't let us watch Star Trek. It was just it defined an era of cartoons for me. Better than some of these other films or other features and cartoons did. It to me is the pinnacle of cartoons.
Side note: the voice of Judy is the voice of Joanne on Adventures in
You're
Odyssey.
right. You're absolutely right. Judy, she was the female Mel Blanc of the
Mhm.
time. She did a lot of female voices and does them very, very well. And like Kristen said, she crossed over later on as an actress into one of our favorite all time radio shows, Adventures in Odyssey. If you've never listened to one of those, I highly, highly recommend. I think they're all downloadable now
Mhm.
at this
All
point. So
streamable through Focus on the Family or witsend.org.
yep. So check that out when you get a chance. And you'll recognize when you get through some of the episodes, you'll recognize some of the voices
You'll recognize a lot of the voice actors.
because they're voice actors and they did a beautiful job in Adventures in Odyssey. But that is my top 10 countdown of my favorite cartoons. I love these shows, every one of them. You know, I could go on and on and on. There were a lot of other cartoons, Jabberjaws, and there was Space Ghost, and there was,
Pound puppies.
Pound Puppy. That's good too. I forgot about Pound Puppies. That was in college though. So it's one of those. I love animation. I've always loved animation, and it is one of those art forms that I think is underappreciated so very much. I think it's garnered some great things lately, especially with computer animation. But man, oh man, those artists who drew those cells, every individual one of those by hand, there was a mastery to that, and they were having to push it out quite often because they're had another episode due Saturday. So that's my top 10 list. Did I forget anything? You guys that are my age, did I forget something that, oh my goodness, I can't believe you didn't do this?
Defining.
The Archies was, one, and so it was. So I mean, there was, probably some things that I just didn't think about. These were my top 10. These were my go tos. And even if I catch them flipping through now on Cartoon Network or something, whoa, let's just take a trip and just enjoy because they're enjoyable.
It's really sad because I just saw the other day that all of the Looney Tunes stuff has been removed from Max.
Yeah, I saw that too. I hope it's available somewhere to stream. Maybe I don't know. That in its original condition, and it's just one of those things that cartoons have always been. It's kind of like comic books. They've always been meant for escapism and fun, and very rarely reality. And that's good. That's okay to have that escape every once in a while. But that's my top 10. What do you think? What did I miss? What did I get right?
Leave it down in the comments below.
Would you have put Flintstones higher up? Just let us know. Probably, but we'll see. Kristen has got one of these coming down the pipe too. In 2 weeks, you'll get Kristen's top 10 cartoon countdown. And I suspect it looks significantly maybe not significantly different, but somewhat different.
It's a bit different.
It will age up, I suspect, a little bit more modern, perhaps. But, that's what happens in the Crossing King garage. I give you old school, she gives you new school. And we love each other while we're doing it. So,
Thank you for joining us.
That's our episode today. And as always, from the Crossing King garage, we want you to be a part and watch us because you're part of the family. I'm Randy.
I'm Kristen.
And we will see you in 2 weeks.